Right now, uh, a group of teenagers on the internet might actually have more power to price the massive SpaceX IPO than, the biggest, most entrenched banks on Wall Street.
Yeah, which is just wild to think about.
It really is. So, welcome to the deep dive. Today is Saturday, April 25, 2026, and our mission for you today is simple, but the implications are just massive.
Oh, absolutely.
We are unpacking the absolute latest prediction market data to uncover exactly what crowdsourced money is telling us about, well, where the world is heading next.
And we're really looking at this data at a truly unprecedented moment. I mean, if you were paying attention to the financial wires yesterday, you saw the entire landscape of this industry just fracture.
Right, the inciting incident. Yesterday, we saw the dramatic unsealing of the first ever insider trading indictment in the prediction market space.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of headline that completely halts your doom scrolling.
It really does. It forces a total recalibration.
Yeah.
Like the ripple effects of that indictment are entirely reshaping the ecosystem today.
How so? Like, what are you seeing?
We'll just look at the data flowing across the order books right now. You're seeing this stark, incredibly distinct divide in how these platforms are being utilized.
Right.
On one side, you have everyday retail users pouring just staggering amounts of liquidity into entertainment, sports, pop culture.
It's just fun stuff, basically.
Exactly. But on the other side, spooked by the legal shockwaves from yesterday, professional traders are aggressively rotating their capital into highly defensive institutional-grade plays.
Okay, let's unpack this because that institutional fear is exactly where we need to start. Yesterday's indictment proves there is serious market-moving money at play here.
Yeah, it's not play money anymore. Not at all.
Right. And that brings us to the biggest fight right now, which is the regulatory turf war over who actually controls these platforms. I know the federal government is going after a few states over this, but what is the market actually saying about who wins that battle?
The market is heavily favoring the federal government right now. So back on April 2nd, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, sued 3 states, Arizona, Connecticut, and Illinois.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, and right now, traders on the Kalshi platform are hyper-focused on these specific regulatory action markets. As of this morning, the odds of a federal court affirming the CFTC's exclusive jurisdiction before June 30th have surged to 74%.
Oh, wow. 74%.
Yeah, that massive jump was triggered by a major Ninth Circuit amicus brief that was just filed by the CFTC.
Okay, let's translate that for a second for everyone. An amicus brief, that's essentially a friend of the court filing, right?
Exactly.
So in plain English, the CFTC is waving a giant flag to the appeals court judges saying, hey, we are the federal regulators. We have the sole authority over these markets, and the individual states need to back off.
That is the core of their argument. And I mean, when you see a 74% probability backed by substantial millions of dollars level capital, the crowd is effectively declaring that the federal government is going to win this fight and win it quickly.
The best way I can think to describe this to you, the listener, is like trying to sell a high-performance sports car. But the local state regulators are aggressively insisting on classifying it as a go-kart just because people are currently racing it for fun.
Right. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
And if it stays classified as a go-kart, it's restricted to the local track, it has a stigma. But if the federal government steps in and classifies it as a street-legal vehicle, it can hit the highway and attract serious corporate money.
What's fascinating here is the actual mechanics of what happens if that classification changes. Because right now, these states want to classify prediction market contracts as mere gambling.
Right, which sounds bad for business.
It is. If the states lose in federal court and can no longer apply that gambling label, the regulatory red tape just vanishes.
Oh.
But more importantly, the moment a federal court declares this isn't gambling, this is a federally regulated financial derivative, the entire game changes.
Because it's suddenly legitimate.
Exactly. You aren't just dealing with retail traders using spare cash anymore. You suddenly unlock the compliance departments of pension funds, endowments, sovereign wealth.
Right, because a massive hedge fund's compliance department would have an absolute meltdown if their traders were playing around on a quote-unquote gambling site.
Instantly, they'd be fired.
But a federally regulated financial derivative, that's Wall Street's native language.
The floodgates of institutional capital would swing wide open. And that is why that 74% probability is the single most important metric on Kalshi right now for the structural future of the whole industry.
But wait, if the institutions are currently stuck in the waiting room, terrified of that gambling label, who is actually providing the hundreds of millions of dollars in liquidity running through these platforms today?
Well, that's the thing.
Because to understand why the states want to call it a go-kart, we kind of have to look at what the general public is doing with it right now. And honestly, it's pure, unadulterated entertainment.
Yeah, they are the volume kings of the current market.
Yeah.
I mean, while the professionals parse Ninth Circuit legal filings, the sheer velocity of money in the ecosystem is completely dominated by the NBA postseason.
Oh, absolutely.
Just look at PolyMarket. The 2026 NBA champion market has surpassed $231 million in total volume, just on that single question.
That is just insane. $250 million on one basketball market. How is the crowd pricing the teams right now?
So the Oklahoma City Thunder are sitting at a 52% probability after a dominant Game 3 performance.
Okay.
Following them, you have the Boston Celtics holding at 30%, and the San Antonio Spurs are trailing at 14%. But honestly, the real velocity is over on Kalshi, where the high-frequency prop markets are just blazing fast.
Now, when we say prop markets, we are talking about proposition bets, right? Like not just who wins the game, but highly specific events occurring within the game itself.
Yeah, exactly. Or specific point margins.
Yeah.
Like for tonight's games, specifically the Nuggets versus Timberwolves, spread meaning the exact margin of points Denver needs to win by to cover traders, are really debating Denver's ability to hold home court.
Right.
That specific market is seeing over $1.2 million in hourly volume. Hourly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Wait, I have to push back on this.
Sure, go ahead.
If a basketball spread is doing $1.2 million an hour, isn't that exactly what the states are worried about? From the outside looking in, if I'm a regulator in Connecticut, that doesn't look like a complex financial derivative.
I know.
That looks identically like a traditional Vegas sports book. So how is that not gambling?
Regulators definitely see it that way,
Yeah.
but structurally, I mean, they couldn't be more wrong. A Vegas sportsbook is playing against you. They are the house.
Right. They want you to lose.
Exactly. They employ odds makers to set the line specifically to guarantee a profit margin for the casino, regardless of who wins. And they will restrict your account if you win too much.
Yeah, we've all heard those stories.
But PolyMarket and Kalshi, they don't care who wins. They aren't the house. They are just the plumbing.
So they're just matching buyers and sellers. It's totally peer-to-peer.
Yes, it is a pure, real-time crowdsourcing of public consensus via an order book. If you think the Thunder will win, you buy a yes share from another user who thinks they will lose and is selling a no share.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it goes far beyond sports, too.
Okay, give me an example. How is this order book structure crowdsourcing consensus outside of an NBA game?
Well, look at the Billboard 200 battle for the week of April 25th, like this exact week.
Oh, the music charts.
Yeah. For the first time ever, a major prediction pool has formed around the #1 album. The market is currently assigning a 57% probability to an album called I Am the Problem.
Okay.
But what makes this unprecedented isn't just the music. The artist is a viral AI hybrid.
Wait, really? The crowd is putting real liquidity on an AI-generated artist topping the actual human charts.
Yes, exactly.
But mechanically, how does a market like that even resolve? If I buy a yes contract for that AI artist who officially decides if I win the money, it can't just be some guy at PolyMarket Googling the Billboard charts on his laptop.
No. This is where we get into the concept of oracles. To resolve these markets trustlessly, platforms use decentralized oracles.
Okay, what are those?
They're basically secure pieces of code that fetch real-world data and feed it into the blockchain or the platform's settlement engine. So for the Billboard market, the oracle is programmed to ping the official Billboard API at a very specific time on a specific date.
Oh, wow. So the smart contract literally asks Billboard servers, hey, who is #1? And then instantly pays out the winners based on that data feed.
Yeah, exactly. But that introduces a fascinating layer of risk.
How so?
What if Billboard changes their API midweek? What if they decide arbitrarily that AI hybrid artists are no longer eligible for the Billboard 200 and they just delist the album?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Right. So you aren't just betting on public consumption of AI music. You are also pricing in the risk of the data source itself changing the rules.
That is a wild way to think about it. It's like we are turning the zeitgeist into a tradable asset, complete with its own unique risks.
Exactly.
But, while the retail public is busy trading basketball spreads and AI pop stars, the institutional traders are using these exact same peer-to-peer platforms for a much darker, much more defensive purpose.
Yeah, they really are.
They are using them to hedge against real-world chaos.
And this is where the true utility of the platform shines, I think.
Yeah.
Far away from the glitz of the NBA playoffs. It's really about survival and risk management.
So let's talk about the federal government shutdown because it has officially crossed the 70-day mark. It is really dragging on.
It is.
And on Kalshi right now, there is a 58% probability that this shutdown extends to 100 days, pushing it all the way into June.
Yeah, which is massive.
And on the geopolitical front, things are even more intense. Over on Polymarket, the contract for U.S. forces to enter Iran by April 30 is sitting at an incredibly volatile 86% probability.
Right.
And we should note, just impartially reporting the data here, that probability is holding firm despite the April 24th insider trading scandal involving a U.S. soldier that we mentioned earlier.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, these aren't morbid bets. These are critical, real-world signals that institutions use to adjust their global risk models.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
Let's take the shutdown first. A 58% probability of a 100-day shutdown is being watched incredibly closely by corporations.
Wow.
Why? Because a shutdown extending into June disrupts supply chains.
Right.
It means national park closures hitting right at peak spring travel demand. It means severely delayed federal tax refunds.
So what does this all mean for the everyday person, like you, the person tuning in right now? Because I think there's a highly practical application here.
Oh, definitely.
Think of it like a highly specific, customizable insurance policy. Let's say you're a small business owner, or just someone who desperately needs their tax refund to cover rent next month.
Yeah.
And you see that 58% probability of the shutdown lasting into June, you could actually go onto Kalshi and buy a yes contract on the shutdown extending.
Exactly.
If it does happen and your refund is delayed, the cash payout you receive from winning that market essentially covers the late fees or the financial hit you suffer in the real world.
You are hedging your personal real-world exposure. I mean, traditional finance has always had tools like this for massive corporations. Swaps, derivatives, hedges against currency fluctuations.
But regular people couldn't use them.
Right. What prediction markets do is democratize that ability. They take the risk management tools previously restricted to Wall Street towers and put them directly on your phone.
And what about the geopolitical data?
Well, the Iran odds are a massive signal. An 86% probability of U.S. forces entering Iran by the end of the month is a flashing red light for the global economy.
Yeah, that sounds pretty dire.
That single data point instantly impacts global energy prices, the cost of maritime shipping, international travel safety. A logistics company shipping goods through the Middle East doesn't look at that 86% and place a bet for fun.
No, they definitely don't.
They look at it and immediately recalculate their insurance premiums and their fuel budgets.
Wow. You know, if these platforms are already being utilized as personalized insurance policies and global supply chain indicators, it makes perfect sense that they are now evolving to replicate or maybe even completely replace traditional Wall Street tools entirely.
This is perhaps the most disruptive mechanism we are looking at today. The platforms aren't just asking binary yes or no questions anymore.
Right.
They're actively moving into continuous asset valuation.
Yeah, let's get into this because the newest tools launching on both Kalshi and Polymarket are called perpetual futures, or perps.
Yeah, perps.
These are contracts tied directly to the implied prices of private assets. And the biggest target right now, SpaceX. Following the filing of their IPO prospectus on April 23rd, a gray market perpetual has emerged on these platforms, and the crowd is currently pricing SpaceX's implied valuation at $2.1 trillion.
Trillion with a T.
It is an absolutely astronomical figure, no pun intended.
Right.
But mechanically, I need you to explain this because I am genuinely confused by how this works. A normal prediction market resolves on a specific date like, will the shutdown end by June 1st, yes or no?
Exactly.
How does a perpetual future maintain a $2.1 trillion price tag if there is no expiration date? What keeps the price tethered to reality?
So it relies on a mechanism called the funding rate. Because a perpetual contract never expires, the platform has to force the trading price of the contract to stay close to the actual implied value of the underlying asset.
Okay, but how?
Think of it like a financial seesaw. If too many people are buying the SpaceX perp and driving the contract price way above the actual estimated valuation, the platform starts charging those buyers a fee.
Oh, interesting.
And they take that fee and pay it directly to the sellers.
Oh, I see. So if the market gets too euphoric and the price detaches from reality, it literally costs you money every few hours just to hold the long position.
Yeah.
You are essentially paying the skeptics to balance the scales.
Correct. The funding rate incentivizes traders to take the unpopular side of the trade, constantly pushing the contract price back toward the true consensus valuation. It is an incredibly elegant, self-correcting mechanism.
I have to play devil's advocate here, though. Let's talk about the wisdom of the crowds versus whale manipulation.
Ah, the classic debate.
Right. If SpaceX is priced at $2.1 trillion, how do we know that's the genuine wisdom of millions of people? What if three billionaires who just really love Elon Musk dumped $50 million into the order book just to pump the price?
Yeah.
Are we really seeing the crowd's wisdom or just a few rich guys front-running Wall Street?
Well, whale manipulation is definitely the most common critique of these markets. But this is where the depth of the order book and the role of liquidity providers come in. If three billionaires artificially pump the price to $2.1 trillion, but the broader market believes the company's actually worth, say, $1.5 trillion, those billionaires have just created a massive arbitrage opportunity.
Oh, because the funding rates will go crazy.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Sophisticated liquidity providers will immediately step in, short the artificially high price, collect the massive funding rate fees from the billionaires, and drive the price back down to consensus.
Wow.
The market is quite literally designed to punish irrational capital.
This raises a massive question about the power dynamic of the upcoming IPO, though. Historically, the gray market, the unofficial trading of a company's shares before it goes public, was controlled by a very small, very exclusive club of institutional investors and Wall Street underwriters behind closed doors.
Yep, the guys in suits.
Exactly. They set the IPO price. But if the global crowd is essentially agreeing with their own capital that SpaceX is worth $2.1 trillion right now, does that force the traditional Wall Street bankers to price the actual IPO at that number? Like, do the underwriters even care about a prediction market?
This raises an important question, and I would argue they are absolutely forced to care. Prediction markets are decentralizing the gray market.
Right.
You are taking the power of valuation away from a few guys in Manhattan and giving it to anyone with an internet connection. If millions of dollars in crowdsourced liquidity establish a $2.1 trillion anchor, the Wall Street underwriters can't ignore it.
Because it's public data now.
Exactly. If they price the IPO at $1.5 trillion, they leave billions on the table and look like they are undervaluing the asset. If they price it at $3 trillion, they look entirely disconnected from market reality.
It's basically accountability through crowdsourced capital. The market is prejudging the bankers before they even release the stock.
It is a profound paradigm shift in how we establish the value of the most important companies in the world.
So as we wrap up our look at the ecosystem on this April 25th, we are really looking at an industry with a split personality.
Oh, completely.
On one hand, you have serious institutional shielding. You have massive players utilizing funding rates and props to value SpaceX, hedging against government shutdowns extending into June, monitoring the geopolitical situation in Iran, and, watching the CFTC battle in federal court to see if they can finally ditch the gambling label.
And on the other hand, providing the lifeblood of liquidity to the platforms, you have wild, unbridled retail volume.
Yeah.
You have massive order books matching buyers and sellers on the NBA playoffs, and decentralized oracles resolving bets on AI pop stars topping the Billboard charts.
It's basically the mechanics of a casino and the architecture of Wall Street operating on the exact same platforms at the exact same time.
It leaves us with something critical to ponder as these platforms scale too. If prediction market mechanisms become accurate enough to successfully crowdsource a $2.1 trillion corporate valuation, or accurately signal an event like forces entering Iran, well, will we eventually see a world where corporate CEOs and political leaders base their actual real-world decisions on the prediction market odds?
That's a scary thought.
Right. If the crowd predicts an event with 90% certainty, do leaders subconsciously or even consciously act to make it happen? At what point do these markets stop predicting the future and start becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy?
That is a thought that will definitely keep you up at night. The crystal ball that actually builds the future it predicts.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope unpacking the mechanics of these markets helped you cut through the noise and understand exactly what the crowd is telling us today.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
And before you go, just a quick reminder, based on today's data with the NBA playoffs moving into those absolutely pivotal Game 4s tomorrow, you will definitely want to keep a close eye out for any series sweep odds breaking the 90% mark tonight. When the crowd speaks that loudly, you don't want to miss it. We'll catch you on the next one.